podcast. My name's Jeff, and his name is Paul, and we're your hosts, as I'm sure you are aware by now. And tonight we're getting together to have a chat about all things Fugitive Doctor. We're quite big fans of the Fugitive Doctor. Paul, before we started recording, you were saying that your liking of Fugitive is growing somewhat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So we've been listening to the second of the Big Finish box sets, which is called Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive.
Maybe that's how Nick Briggs says it whenever he internally discusses it, in the Big Finish channels.
Or Alive. Dead or Alive.
So this is the second one following Most Wanted. We have talked about Most Wanted on here, and we had an interview a little while ago with Sophie Shad, who was one of the characters in The Legend of Baba Yaga, which was the middle story in Most Wanted, and was quite frankly excellent, wasn't it, Paul?
It was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Sophie was an absolute treasure. A delight, you might say.
Yes, we'll pop a link to that in the about text of this, so you can check that out. So, yeah, we're quite big fans of the Fugitive Doctor. Obviously, we are big fans of the Chris Chibnall era, and this is where she originated from. I have no bias at all, having previously met Jo. And also that we had her on the podcast here where we discussed
we did
Fugitive Doctor's placement in the timeline, as well as other things. Jo was absolutely marvellous, and just wonderful company, wonderful to chat to. So this is the second box set, like I mentioned, but before we kind of get into that, there's not been any news of a third set at the moment.
Hasn't there?
No,
I thought there was going to be loads.
Well, so I'm not quite sure what's happening because, as you may have seen, last week they just announced Circuit Breaker, which is
what's that?
So it's a Fugitive Doctor-led multimedia event, and
not another one of those.
Yeah, so
yay!
No, we've talked about these before because anyone who's listened regularly will know I wasn't the biggest fan of Time Lord Victorious because it was rubbish. And
say such a thing.
Well, the thing with these events is, you've got the main sort of crux of the storyline, which might be, as it was for Time Lord Victorious, 2 books. And they were pretty good. Great villain, good books. But then you got the ancillary, audio from BBC, the Big Finish stuff. Then there's the comic pieces, maybe some stuff in a game. And it gets to be quite a lot. And I know it's designed so that, you could just go, I'll listen to the audio piece or I'll just read the books. But you don't you don't get the core of the story with it.
I'd suffer from massive FOMO if I did that.
Well, I would
totally. I'd be like
not having enough money,
and also not enough money. Yeah, because everything it costs money, doesn't it?
Yeah,
a few things are going to be free, but if you want the comic in DWM, you got to buy DWM. If you're a subscriber, you're still paying for it. If you want to read the book, you got to buy the books. And books aren't cheap now. They're best part of £10 now. And what's that all about?
And I suppose
95p would hour a kid for the Target novel, 75p even. That's how old I am, mate.
They're thinking that, yes, of course you don't have to buy all of it, because you absolutely don't.
But you do, because otherwise you're missing something, because there's got to be a reward for buying all of it. So there's got to be other bits in there that you don't get unless you buy all of it. It's like buying a jigsaw. It's like you don't have to buy, if you sold every piece individually, well, you don't have to buy every piece. You can still have 1 or 2 missing. You can still see the picture. Oh, no.
Well, I think, yes,
we can't have missing pieces.
For you, that would be an irritation.
I would not be able to sleep at night if that were the case.
See, I read the 2 Time Lord Victorious books, and like I said, that was kind of the core of the story, and that worked. And I listened to the 8th Doctor audios, and they were good fun. But sort of, I think what I'm trying to say is, your Sonic did work.
That was a different one. It was this one?
Oh, you can't assume that everyone can buy everything, and I don't know how you do a multimedia event that has strong enough kind of standalone elements, and B doesn't require you to buy 1 audio, 1 book, and 1 comic to get the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? So
see, See, I took I took the best the best route through all of that.
You didn't do
So
it.
I avoided missing out on things. I avoided getting to know whether there was the whole story or not. So I didn't have that pain, and I didn't worry about the individual little pieces. Do you know what I did? Didn't read any of it.
No, I know you didn't.
So,
well, and that's the thing,
Didn't listen to it. I thought, do you know why? Because I'm not going to get all those things. There's something I'm going to be missing. So I'm not going to get the story. So I just didn't bother.
Yeah.
That sounds really terrible, but I just
no,
did
but
not.
it's. I think it's fair enough. But then
I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was like 5 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that's many years.
Many years ago.
But I thought, do you know what? I just don't care enough about all this stuff, and I'm not going to get every comic and every big finish. And
well, no,
I think I saw the Doctor Who magazine.
And that's the thing. And I think it was a bit like, I thought Time Lord Victorious was, not really that great overall. So when Doomsday came out and it had that...
you weren't impressed with that at all,
well, I mean, it had an awful launch trailer, let's be honest. And then I thought, what's the literally, what's the point of it? You've launched this big thing before the new...
It's for the kids, mate. It's for the kids.
Well, maybe, but, it's got a character that we don't know at all.
Yeah.
And... it had all these different pieces, and I was like, what's the core bit? And basically you had...
What's it all about?
You had to read the first piece that I think appeared in an annual, maybe, and then you had to read the last piece, which appeared on the official website, and that was basically the start of the journey and the end of the journey. So it's like, okay, well, that's that then, So... when
go on the website and read the end of it, cut to the chase.
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah. So
it's free.
I didn't bother with any of it, and then they've announced Circuit Breaker. So, on one hand, I got three hands for this. One hand, I'm really excited because there's Fugitive Doctor being led, so she'll be on books, comics, audios. Jo Martin and her character getting spotlight. Brilliant. I think that's fantastic. The second hand is that I am, of course, slightly wary because the previous multimedia things have left me a little bit cold.
Frigid.
But I'm hopeful, and again, my fugitive love is sort of swaying me here. But my third hand is that Esme Jakimi Pearson is overseeing this.
Yes. Oh, I did see this. Yeah. That's actually quite exciting.
So
it's a good
very
mix.
Exciting. And so there's a couple of things to that. Esme is a wonderfully jubilant, joyful person.
She really is.
We spoke to her a while ago.
So full of energy.
Yeah, lovely. And she wrote the target novel of The Church on Ruby Road, and she also had her first book out, The Principle of Moments, which is an excellent, epic sci-fi time-travelling romance saga. Superb. I can't wait for the second book. She has her next book, Gutter Witch, out possibly later this year or next year, and the second Principle of Moments book. And she has an original 15th Doctor novel coming out soon, which is The Moon Cruise, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And as she told us when we spoke to her on the podcast, she had been working with Chibnall to develop a 13th Doctor multimedia story.
That's right, she did.
Which, as far as I'm aware,
fell away, didn't it?
Yeah, no one knew about it until then, and it fell away, like you said, because of COVID and various things, and there was quite a keenness to keep things to just the on-screen adventures, really, in that time. So I wonder if the Circuit Breaker
might
is
be
sort of
pick up from that, possibly.
Or resurrection of what that was. So the plot,
that's a thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and the plot, as sort of vaguely revealed, is that UNIT keep getting these mysterious artifacts turning up in the Black Archive, and they call on the Doctor for help and somehow end up with the Fugitive Doctor, and these artifacts have a connection to each past incarnation of the Doctor. So I wonder if there's going to be something like, one of the audios might be framed by the Fugitive Doctor, but it could be 13 and an adventure, a bit like when they did Day of the Doctor, which was the 50th anniversary audio series they did a story per Doctor, and there was vague connections between the whole lot. If you've not listened to that, that was really good. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see what it's like.
Give it the benefit of a doubt. It sounds like, if Esme's behind it, then there's going to be a really strong story. I think she's a great storyteller. I think the only thing that worries me about these things is this kind of need to have an overarching kind of narrative. So you've got these little episodes within a bigger thing, and the bigger thing has got to be big enough to make the reward for buying all this stuff and investing so much time worth it.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is. I hope it is, but I'm very much on the fence. It's probably just because I'm an old git more than anything, to be honest. But I have very little time, and what time I have, I've got to be really kind of choosy.
Well,
you know what I mean? What I'm going to listen to.
The thing is, they must sell
whatever.
Because they wouldn't be doing another one if the previous ones...
Or maybe they keep trying to find the way to make it work. Maybe they keep trying to do the recipe. It's almost like, they know it should work, and they've seen it in various other things, maybe. So, maybe, okay, Time Lord Victorious, partial success. The other one, don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But this one, third time lucky. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So, I got high hopes for it, and I think... going back to
high hopes. Sorry, that is a song, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a song. Yeah, going back to the Big Finish set. Yeah, they have not announced a third box set after this one, so I'm not sure what's going to happen because obviously you've got Circuit Breaker coming out, although that's next year sometime. So I'm hoping we've still got a few months of this year left. They might release another one. Anyway,
well, I was going to say I do hope so because I mean there's a lot of story threads left hanging from not just this box set, but also the first, and more so the first box set actually, because I don't think this second box set really picks up on a lot of those things.
No,
but it almost takes a parallel track and leaves another sort of storyline kind of dangling, which I hope both those and what happened in the first box set are going to kind of come together in a part 3. That if that doesn't happen, then frankly, what's the point? What's the point of any of it? I don't know. Big Finish. What are you doing? I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Even if it's going to be in 20 years from now, possibly.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a plan for it, and we'll come on to this later. But there was also a fairly strong tie-in from this set to the first 13th Doctor adventure that came out recently.
Yes, there was. Yeah, which was unsuspected by me.
Yes,
because I don't read synopses.
Right.
I don't like reading. Well, it's not I don't read them. I do. I might just scan across them, but I would never get to the end. So I had no idea what was going to happen in that one, because I know the one you're talking about until it actually happens. But I'll tell you my reaction to it when we get to it. So
that will be Tim Foley, having done both of them. So we'll be able to talk to him a bit more about that in a couple of weeks. So the first story then in this set is called Flying Solo, and this one is fairly standalone, isn't it? The story picks up with a RAF pilot, Officer Mohinder Singh Johal, who's on a sortie, and it's in World War II, and he ends up. Have you ever heard these sort of stories of pilots and RAF pilots and the mysterious things in the sky that they there's reports of? So I kind of think this had a little bit of inspiration from that, and he sees the TARDIS, doesn't he?
It's been blasted to oblivion by Cosmogon, who she's hit it with some illegal time weapon, isn't she?
Yeah,
and it's creating all this like chronon particle cloud thing, which makes time and space unstable around it as it's kind of hurtling through Earth's atmosphere, as you rightly said, some point during World War II.
Yeah.
So it sends it on a bit of a collision course with the pilot.
Yeah, and so he's chasing the TARDIS, and then the Spitfire vanishes. So there was sort of Bermuda Triangle kind of things a bit there.
Strange lights in the sky. Yeah. What is it? I don't know. Don't get closer. We lost him. He's gone off the radar. That kind of thing. That's what it is. It's that proper. You're right. It's proper good old sci-fi X-Files kind of mystery, unexplained mysteries, UFOs and kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It's all good fun.
So I enjoyed this one because it goes into the history of India a little bit, and it kind of made me think a bit of Demons of the Punjab, really, and how that
a little bit,
it's a bit more of a it is sort it's set kind of very much in that area and that time, I think, and it's sort of a more actiony version of that kind of theme, I think, which is quite befitting for Fugitive, really. So I thought it was a cracking story, and what's been interesting with this set is, like you're saying, there's been a couple of threads and things, going through it, particularly Cosmogon. But this one didn't really have much to do with any of it, did it? Which I think is quite nice, because it's a bit like, again, Baba Yaga. You're getting to see Fugitive just being a doctor, and going out with the doctor, and having adventures and doing all of that kind of thing, and it's not just reliant on, the mystery,
the big arc.
Because I think, and again we'll talk about this. They've set up a couple of bits in this series, haven't they? But I wonder whether they'll ever sort of fully answer things of what does she remember and where is she in the timeline things, and people have their own thoughts, and Joe has what is the sort of official answer, but I sort of feel that some of the charm of her Doctor is that she doesn't remember everything, and there's a lot of mystery about it, and I think if they can perhaps reveal a few bits and pieces but not give us 100% of things.
Throw out the crumbs every now and then.
Because it kind of makes me think a little bit of like the Time War. Remember all that, and for years that was talked about, and then Big Finish eventually started doing audio set in the Time War and things, and they're very good, I think. But there's a part of me that was like, but it was quite nice that it was just this sort of mythical thing that we never saw or heard of. So I hope they kind of keep it a little bit, like that with it. I thought this opening episode was really good, and sort of kind of more emotional than I was expecting. Really, it really focuses on Mahinda, doesn't it, and his life and his situation, and kind of going through the past of his country like that. So
is it that he's kind of connected to the events that he visits, doesn't he? So he gets caught up in his TARDIS cloud, ends up establishing a link with the Doctor, and she's kind of guiding him. So what I really like about this, in some ways, it's a bit of a two-hander. So you've got and the Doctor and Mahinda, they're almost like a chorus on the events that are happening. So they're they're that sort of overarching role, kind of telling us what's going on in a way, but it's done in a really nice way, because obviously the Doctor's trying to get him to safety and trying to figure out where he is, and every time she gets on a lock on him, he slips away in space and time somewhere. So we get him visiting Alexander the Great, isn't it, when Alexander the Great made a push into India, which I didn't know about that at all. I didn't know Alex. I mean, I don't know that much about Alexander the G anyway. The G, Alexander the Big G. But I know the only bit I really know about Alexander the Great was what I learned from a Iron Maiden song, which actually does mention that he goes towards India. Actually, thinking about it, but I was just too busy headbanging. Anyway, so that's fun, and then we also meet Clive of India as well, don't we? In a not very flattering way. And again, so. This is why, in a way, I think you're right. I think there are echoes of Demons of the Punjab, in respect that I was never taught that sort of history at school, and if I was, it was taught from a very different perspective. It was told from a colonial perspective, the Western, the white man's perspective. That's literally what it is. We went over to India and we beat them down and we ruled with our fists, and then the blackguards wanted independence, and all that kind of nonsense. That's what I was kind of brought up with. Clive of India was a hero, whereas actually wasn't at all. He was just a nasty piece of shit from the sound of things. A lot of these, and I love the fact that this kind of whereas Demons of the Punjab showed us the effects of partition, or the immediate consequences of that diabolical decision to partition India. In the fact that it literally divided a family and had two brothers going loggerheads to each other. So this probably wasn't quite as hardcore as that. It was a little bit more lighthearted, I think. But you're right, there was a big emotional kick because as all this is kind of happening, Mahinda is kind of vanishing. He's sort of disappearing, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of getting lost, and eventually it's almost like he's just going to dissipate. He's going to evaporate into whatever, particles or something.
It, yeah.
And he kind of feels it coming on. There's this wonderful sequence right at the end where he kind of understands. He goes through the motions. He almost gets like power hungry at one point. He's at a point where he could change history for the better. He could allow this massacre not to happen. He could stop it all right now, and he really wants to do it. He could just crash his plane, destroy the British, boom, everything changes from that point on. And the Doctor has to try and reason with him, even though she's on his side. She gets it. She knows what it is. She feels it with him, and she's as angry as he is, but she kind of talks him through it. So he goes through this explosive moment of anger, comes through the other side of it, understands why he can't do it. And it's not just about changing history. It's about changing who he is.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of person who would commit that level of destruction unless he does do it. And the act of doing that will change him forever, even if that forever is just a moment before he vanishes. There's a real poignancy in that moment. And I absolutely, Jeff, I 100% loved it. I thought this script was absolutely banging on all levels. And it was beautiful. And it was brilliantly acted as well. And what I really liked was that in each of those different scenarios with Clive India, Alexander the Great, and blah blah blah, and a couple of others, it was the same cast playing them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's only like 3 cast members, right, outside of Joe Martin and the other guys. So it was like, it's brilliant acting, voice versatility. And the first time I've heard a soldier in the court of Alexander the Great as a Geordie, I think, wasn't he? Like from the northeast or something like that. He was talking like that. Alex, my king, I have a prisoner. She's a spy. That kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it.
Great. It was Tajinder Singh Hay. I hope I've pronounced that right. Who wrote it?
Yes.
And great job. Yeah, really like that one. So
there's also the bit thing about him, because there's also political questions as well about his allegiances, wasn't it?
Yes,
so again, it just opens your eyes into thinking, these all these guys in the army who fought for the British, who weren't British, what were they? What's going through their minds? What sort of experiences did they have?
Yeah.
Being on the brunt of a lot of kind of white superiority and colonial imperialism.
Yeah.
You do wonder, and I think whilst it didn't go too far down that road, it went far enough to get the idea. Perhaps I would have liked it to have gone in some ways a lot further, but then that would have been a very different story. It's nice that they at least confronted that sort of thing head on. I think.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it sort of did touch upon a lot of kind of deeper themes and kind of brought them into mind a bit. So the second story is the Junkyard Loop by Aaron Douglas. So this one...
you have to help me out with this one, because I can't remember a huge amount about it, to be honest with you. I think I have this problem with the second one of the series.
Yeah.
It tends to get lost if there's 2 strong ones either side.
Yeah, this one was probably not quite as strong as the other 2, but I bet if it had come out as its own piece, it would have been, really strong.
Yeah, very much so. I'm sure it would.
Says quite a lot for the overall quality. So the Doctor's being chased by Cosmogon.
I remember this one now.
She crashes onto an old planet that's kind of covered with junk and a lot of time machines from all sorts of different places.
Time frost parasites, isn't it?
That's
it. Very creepy idea.
Yeah.
This was quite dark, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Jeff,
this one was, and the Doctor finds an old friend, TARDIS, there. So that was quite nice, kind of, fleshing out the life of the Doctor, from her time in Division and things, and things that she doesn't perhaps remember, and all of that.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yeah, because what was her name? Sedalis. So she'd been stranded on this planet for centuries or so, wasn't she? She's like I think she's a Time Lord or something.
Yeah, she is.
And this is a planet where all kinds of Time Lord technology that has been run down, put to pasture, it all ends up being dumped or crash on this planet.
Yeah.
And of course, because it's Time Lord technology, it's not just rusting bits of metal. There's all kinds of weird shit going on with it all, because it's all like bits of TARDIS and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it very much put me in mind of Neil Gaiman's story, the Doctor's Wife.
Yes.
To a degree, but But I keep forgetting her name, Sedalis. So she's been stranded on this. She's been affected by everything that's going on around her and the influence of all this technology and trying to keep away from the time frost parasites. And she doesn't know if they're actually in her head or not. And she's kind of gone a bit mad. And I loved, who was it? Who played her? Because she was brilliant. Charlotte Palmer.
Yeah.
She was fantastic because there were certain things she did, right, where she was nice and friendly, and then she's just snap and go a bit crazy, like, and then bring it friendly again, and then just, you know, and almost like trying to behave differently to what we would expect. And it kept me. Yeah, I do remember. It's coming back to me now, Jeff. It might take a while, but it comes back. She was brilliant in this. I think she absolutely held this thing together. It was fabulous.
Yeah, this was really a cracking one, and there's another division agent.
Oh yeah, he's a knob, isn't he?
Yeah. Who's chasing the Doctor and wants to get inside her head and get some of the secrets out. I'm just looking at what was his name.
I can't remember his name now.
Is it Sartorius maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, anyway, Sartorius division agent. Yeah. So, Alexander. Vlas?
Yeah.
Alexander Vlas.
So
I think something like that.
Yeah, I felt this one was good fun. It wasn't as strong as the two either side, but then, like I said, if this had come out on its own, this would have been a story I'd have listened to and gone, yeah, that was great, and really enjoyed that. But so this is
maybe.
pretty high anyway. But the other two kind of slightly towered over it a little bit.
Yeah, I think so actually. Yeah, I think one thing I was kind of, is coming back to Jeff, is actually the guy there, his character. So he's okay. So two things about this. Firstly, he's worse than Cosmogon, right? So Cosmogon is the one who's been chasing the Doctor through time and space throughout the first box set, in between the box sets, and now obviously picking up on this one. But it turns out he's a lot worse than she is. He's much more kind of single-minded, and he seems to be more prepared to just basically kill loads of people in his way. He doesn't care whether he uses his own soldiers as kind of cannon fodder or kills anything, wreaks destruction, havoc. He just has to get to the Doctor.
Yeah,
that's kind of his sole purpose, and it does make him. So the interesting thing is how that sort of throws Cosmogon, sort of nudges her more towards the Doctor.
Yeah,
as almost not quite an ally. But there are moments within this where you think, well, hold on a minute. They're kind of sort of, she seems to be sympathising with the Doctor on more occasions than not, telling the division commander, you can't do this. This is not the way, and she's mine. And and it almost says it's almost like there's a few moments where she's saying the Doctor's mine to stop him from actually doing something ridiculously stupid.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, for the first time, Cosmogon now has a character and a moral centre, which we hadn't been aware of previously. And I think this actually becomes an important foundation for what happens in story number 3.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. And, hereafter changes their relationship, doesn't it, in a very interesting way. And, what comes next is going to be very intriguing to see how how that all develops. So so the next episode is Hereafter, which is written by Tim Foley, and I was quite surprised in this one because Cosmo captures the Doctor, doesn't she? And I thought, that's happened a bit kind of sooner than I was expecting, but I think actually it was probably a good thing because if the stories are just carried on with this sort of chase thing. It might have gotten a bit dull quite quickly.
Maybe.
Yeah, so this has come at a good point to spice it all up a little bit. So they end up getting stuck together on a planet, don't they? A force field, psychic force field, kind of, it gets them stuck there. So this one had a lot of really cool stuff in it. So the first thing, we'll talk about Cosmo and her story in a minute, but they discover that the town is preparing to do a festival to honour the queen that lives up in the mountain that doesn't really come down to them. And eventually we discover that the queen is a vampire. And there's quite a lot of stuff in here about old Time Lord enemies and the vampires and different types of vampires and, this sort of... centuries of history between them and stuff, and then anyone who's listened to Vampire Weekend, which was the first 13th Doctor audio, which was also written by Tim Foley, might remember that also featured a vampire that was an ancient Time Lord enemy. I mean, it's almost like he's planned these things. So I particularly liked that this Fugitive Doctor story had a linkage to something that's happened much further down the timeline with 13. So that was cool.
Also, the Fourth Doctor, don't forget.
Oh, and which story?
State of Decay. We said this last time, mate. That was when we first heard about the great vampires that the Time Lords battled. And there was also the bit with the Ninth Doctor as well, in the Time Lord Victorious, which we were talking about earlier.
Yes, there is one where he has
Come
vampires.
on, get with it, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I said to you, and when we did Vampire Weekend, it's probably the only kind of vampire that I've got any time for, is that because there's so much. It's like you were saying about the Time War. We don't see, or until they did the series in Big Finish, we didn't see everything about the Time War. It was all very mysterious, and that was exactly how it was with this great war between the Time Lords and the vampires. And it's literally just the power of Terrance Dicks's scripts in State of Decay. Just those few little references. There's not many. There's just a few peppered here and there that. My head when I was like 10 years old or whatever just kind of expanded in this stuff, and there was all kinds of things happening. The thought of this giant, literally a giant, the size of a skyscraper, a vampire that big, just clawing its way out, that have been buried for aeons, millennia, is just brilliant, and it's kind of exerting its influence even whilst it's pretty much dead, whilst it's dormant, and this is an element that was picked up directly in this story now hereafter, because as you're right, the Doctor and Cosmo, they start feeling the effects of this psychic influence, this pervading presence that's coming down from the mountain. It's so powerful, it's pulling water uphill. There's a brilliant moment where the Doctor notices a few things, and she toys with Cosmogon. They're handcuffed together, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the Doctor obviously doesn't like being handcuffed and is making herself really annoying, and it's kind of working. And she says things like, "There's three things I've noticed," and Cosmo says, "What?" Or so. Oh no, she's not gonna even ask her what. But the Doctor needles her. It's like, "You want to know what?" She goes, "No." And she goes, "Well, and then eventually it comes around. It's like, well, look at the water. It's rolling uphill."
Yeah.
And there's other things that kind of come through. And I didn't know it was going to be vampires because I hadn't read the synopsis. And if I had read the synopsis, I'd have gone, "Oh, no, not bloody vampires again. Like, why do it have to be vampires?" But it was a really nice surprise, the way the story unfolded. There's nice little clues. The girl they meet at the side of the river is collecting firewood.
Yes.
She's actually sharpening some sticks into saying she's going to stake the dead. Right, so you think, well, okay, there's something very weird going on here. I'll tell you what else this put me in mind of as well is the Gorillaz album Demon Days, and there's that big thing towards the end of it. It's like three songs all kind of melded together about the big mountain and stuff, and it's almost like it's a kind of folklore-y kind of thing, a big legend about this sleeping mountain that suddenly comes to life and wipes out a civilization like that in an instant. And I started getting vibes from that. I was just kind of listening to this. It's a really isolated community. It's a very weird planet. There's this weird psychic influence. Cosmo, we actually get into her head, don't we? Because we're going through moments of her kind of upbringing or her history in a way. That moment stuff, before she gets brought into division or promoted within division into some new part of it or something, isn't it? And eventually starts off on the path she walks down to become the person she is. Yeah. So, and that kind of threw me at first, actually, because I thought, well, who are we listening to? Who is this now? And it took me a while to recognise it was Alice Krieger's voice again. They kind of younged, she was slightly high pitched. Yeah, maybe a little bit of treatment to make her sound a little bit younger. And that. Do you know the weird thing is? I have to just point this before I forget it, actually. And it's awful, but I still think of her when I'm listening to these big finishes as the Borg Queen. Yeah. I do, honestly. It's terrible. But at least I did until this one, because now she's suddenly much more of a person and a personality. She has rings. There's a great moment where she cannot, she has a ring, she has jewelry, and it's important to the story, but she at this point it's not. It's just important to her. She cannot leave this ring behind. And you think, for someone who was so ruthless and so dedicated to bringing the Doctor to heal, why is she so worried about this stuff? But because we understand her history, the relationship she has with her father, you know, and her mother, and what happened there, and the sort of pain and trauma and everything else that she underwent through, the choices she had to make, why these things are so important to her. You know, she can be the person she is and do what she has to do. She doesn't have to enjoy it. She can just do it. But as long as she's got these little bits of jewellery, she's still who she is. She's still got an anchor to that person she used to be long ago. You know, the girl on her dad's knee, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, the girl who was so close to her dad, you know, and used to go on walks together and everything. And she cannot afford to lose that. And she can't, you know, that link to her family and who she is. That's why she has to go back for it in the end. And, you know, normally when stories do that, oh, I've forgotten something in my bathroom, I've got to go back and get it, just when you know it's going to kick off, right? I would hate that normally. But Tim, mate, you did brilliant on this, because I absolutely had to have her go back and get that. I wanted her to not forget that ring. As soon as she took it off and you hear the little sound effect of it hitting the counter, you think, oh, please, don't forget that ring. I'll be distraught if you forget that ring. Mate, it was brilliant. This was by far one of the absolute best Big Finish scripts I've ever listened to in my life. It is brilliant. I cannot recommend this highly enough. It was perfect from beginning to end in every single way. I don't say that about a lot of stories.
No, you
certainly
don't,
not Big Finish, but there is nothing that I did not enjoy about this. I was hooked from the moment it started till the moment it finished, and I just enjoyed every single minute of this story, mate. It was brilliant. Absolutely astonishingly good.
It was excellent. I also hadn't read the synopsis, as I often don't on these box set ones. I just get them, you know.
Just get them, listen, chuck them in the car.
This sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to buy that one. You know, it's got a Doctor I like in it. And so when the vampire stuff started kind of becoming apparent, I was like, oh, Tim, you clever chap.
You're thinking Paul's going to love this.
But also, you know, all the things that you just said were right, because, you know, Cosmo so far had been this, you know, cat giving chase to the mouse, and she was a bit mean and, you know, determined and all of that kind of stuff. But this really kind of fleshed her out, and gave this sort of lovely, you know, history, and her, you know, when the dad kind of reappeared in a sort of, you know, psychic kind of projection or whatever.
I would normally hate that stuff, right? It would be so rubbish. I would just go, oh God, here we go. But I was feeling really emotional. You know me, I don't get emotional at this sort of stuff.
I mean, you hate any emotion. Exactly. You've got a heart stone.
Obviously I don't. It's just got to be at this high level for me to engage with it in
it was
that
lovely,
sort of way.
Because, you know, I think not only was the thing of kind of seeing one's, you know, deceased family member, again, quite, you know, moving thing, but, you know, Cosmo had sort of softened here, and a little bit with the one before, story before, and
I don't know if she's softened so much. I think it's more that she'd become closer to the Doctor, in a way. You know what I mean? It's like we know now, and we understand where that moral centre that she is coming from, because we understand her history. I think because of the psychic field, because she's almost been pushed into remembering these traumatic moments, these important times from her life. She doesn't want to remember them, but they keep happening to her, and the Doctor's very guarded, is it? We don't know if they're happening to the Doctor at this point, because we're not in the Doctor's head. We're in Cosmo's head, and all. You know, we're seeing this story from at least the first half of it from her perspective.
And you know, at the end they have an altered relationship, don't they? And it's almost like they maybe want to, you know, travel together or sort of spend a bit more time together, but, you know, there's a job to be done, but you know, Cosmo says, I'll give you a head start and things. So it's almost a bit like, you know, one of those kind of relationships with the goodie and the baddie, as it were, where there's, you know, actually they kind of respect each other and it's quite fun, and that, you know, maybe they're actually pals, but, you know, there's a bloody job getting in the way. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see where all this goes. And they've obviously got a plan for things. And like you said, there was a few story things that weren't kind of resolved because there was mention of the Doctor seeing a guy in a grey suit, is it? And that's not kind of expanded upon. And I also remember from the last set,
there was a big spectral entity or something, wasn't there? That she was,
I can see you, but I don't fear you, and things, and
something like that. Yeah.
So I
see you, but I do not fear you.
That's it. Yeah. So I guess that's gonna
that's it. That's the big mystery, I think, from the first box set. And this third one now is what happens with the Doctor and Cosmogon now. Do they join forces?
Yeah.
Do they become further apart? Their relationship has changed. We understand now more about Cosmo. I don't think... I generally don't think she's softened as such. I think it is just more that we know who she is, and the Doctor now knows who she is, and maybe she knows herself who she is now. But she's still doing the same job that she did. She's still going to hunt the Doctor. Maybe there is a bit of softening because she gave her a head start, and if she was that ruthless, she wouldn't have done. So but you're right. There's a sort of mutual respect and an understanding now, and it would be criminal if we don't see how that plays out in another batch of stories.
Yeah.
One thing I also like, before I forget as well, actually, is this thing with Cosmo and her dad was nicely. There was a nice echo of that with the girl from the village who they meet. I can't remember her name now, but her dad was dead. Quotation fingers. And this is why, in a way, Cosmo could throw herself in with this complete stranger. And this was an interesting thing because the Fugitive Doctor, as we know, is not the warmest of people.
No.
Right? She's not the most compassionate of doctors or anything like that, and she's obviously looking out purely for herself on this. She's on the run, and now she's handcuffed to her hunter. So she, in a way, doesn't seem to get as involved or want to get involved. She pushes involvement in a way because it's a means of getting Cosmo unnerved and just gives her a bit of thinking time and some distractions that she can try and use to get away from the whole thing. But also there's a big mystery which she can't help getting, trying to solve. But it's Cosmo really who makes the important decisions in a way. And there's a big moment right at the end. So they're in the mountain. The Doctor is with the vampire lady. Cosmo is underneath the crypt with the girl from the village, trying to rescue the girl's dad and find out what's going on with all the bodies. They're not bodies, and spoilers, by the way. It's probably a bit late now, but whatever, right? But here's the thing. So there's a massive choice the Doctor makes. So the Doctor's given a choice. Now, the big vampire wants somebody to live with her and feed off and all that kind of thing. But she doesn't want the Doctor. Normally in a Doctor Who story, the big bad would want the Doctor to sit on their right arm or be the tortured soul or whatever. But no, Cosmo's got more than the Doctor. She's got more life. There's more energy. There's more something. Whatever it is the vampire likes, Cosmo's got more of it. So will the Doctor give Cosmo to the vampire?
Yes.
And I thought, and for the only time I think in Doctor Who, because we don't know the Fugitive, right? She could do anything. This Doctor could literally go completely off the compass, off the scale. If she's pre-Hartnell, we know Hartnell was a bit of a bugger, the first Doctor at times, right? She snapped the horn off a space rhino. There are things she would do that we wouldn't think the Doctor would normally do. So if this was the Doctor, if it was Jodie's Doctor, I think, well, the 13th Doctor would never give Cosmo to the vampire.
No, she would put herself in there. Would this
Doctor do it? Maybe she would. And I really thought she had at one point. So
I did too. Yeah.
And I was on Cosmo's side when all that was kicking off, mate. Because I thought, But again, this is why this script is so bloody good, Tim. And, oh my God.
Now, when they released the artwork for this one, I thought, why is Alice Krieger so prominent on the front? This is Fugitive Doctor series.
That's why.
But now it makes sense. Yeah. So, this whole
brilliant story.
Great.
Absolutely loved it. I did. I enjoyed this a lot more than I did the first one.
Really?
I did like it. I thought it was at a good level, and I think the Baba Yaga story, actually, the second one was probably the peak of the three. But this one, it's like all three would at a much, much higher level. And whether that's because they, because Big Finish now know what they're doing with Joe Martin and the Fugitive Doctor, and, and the cast have kind of been working together. I mean, Alice Krieger's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, she's really good.
I love her to bits. And her and Joe Martin together, that's, they've had a lot more time in this story together, in these stories. Actually, all three of them, they seem to spend a lot more time.
Built up as it went on, didn't it?
I still think it's a strange, weird, funny bizarre name, though, Cosmogon. I mean,
well, she doesn't like it, does she?
No, I know, that's it. I thought it's I thought it was an affect. So her dad calls her my little cosmonaut, doesn't he? Which is weird, actually, because that's a specifically Russian noun, right? Or a westernized version of a Russian noun, right? We call these things cosmonauts. So why would the Time Lords be nicknaming? But why not? It doesn't really matter that much. But Cosmogon is actually her name, I take it, and Cosmonaut was her nickname.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought actually Cosmogon was her nickname, and she's like, "Don't call me that." But actually, no, I think they were calling her, their dad was calling her my little cosmonaut.
Yes.
Not my little Cosmogon.
He was, yeah. Just looking
we'll have to ask Tim when he comes in.
I just wondered...
Here's a copy of your script, Tim. Let's have a look at it so I can see for myself, Because sometimes when you listen to these things, it's quite difficult, something to pick up on some of the nuances. Mostly it's really clear, but it took me a few times. I thought, oh no, he's calling her cosmonaut.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how if he's kind of overseeing the series a little bit. But we'll ask him. Got a couple of comments on Twitter here.
Go ahead.
So Mini Miku says it was really good. The mystery set up with these audios are intriguing. Jo is still excellent in the role, and I'm glad the character of Cosmo has more time to shine. She's really interesting. I hope we'll get a sequel to this. And Dan Hollingsworth says, well, I've only listened to episode 1 so far, and I enjoyed it. Multi-historical genre adventure with some nice touches, such as restating the rules of time travel, and it felt quite of its era with the evils of colonialism reminder, and a great homage to Jodie's final line. Yes, because the Doctor says, tag, you're it there.
Yeah.
So that was very nice. So yeah, I have seen people talking about it all online as well, and again a lot of love for this
good
set as well. So yeah, I'm very excited for more, and I hope that Big Finish announced that.
Get more. Come on, Big Finish.
Surely
make it happen.
Got to be something before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been great chatting about this. So yeah,
they're doing loads of other stuff as well, though, isn't it? They're too busy doing, I don't know, River Song meets William Hartnell and Zebedee from Magic Roundabout or something.
I guess the stuff sells, but I really hope they don't start having,
I know.
Fugitive
Just give me more of this stuff, rather than that other nonsense.
I don't want Jackie Tyler meeting Fugitive.
I was saying that we've got Ninth Doctor stuff coming up as well, haven't we? So
so
that's going to be another thing to invest in.
That's in its lane there.
That's in universe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So,
I like that. I can deal with that.
Yeah, so that's fine. So yeah, we'll be talking to Tim Foley about Snare soon, and we need to arrange a date. But we're going to be talking to Helen Goldwyn as well, who's directed.
We spoke to Helen before, didn't we?
We did.
A couple of years back now.
Yeah,
she's lovely. She's brilliant.
Yeah, so that'll be really nice to catch up with her again. So yeah. Lots going on. So thanks for listening. Let us know your thoughts on the Dead or Alive box set and the Fugitive series in general, and what your thoughts for Circuit Breaker are. And we'll catch you next time on Who Corner to Corner.
Bye for now. TT.
TT and FM.
What he said.